So we're going to look at XML, and XML is a data format that we should be fairly familiar with because HTML is based on that XML standard. And if we look at it, it's basically very similar to what we're used to. You've got node names, or we used to call them tag names in HTML. But in XML, since it's a broader standard, we can make up our own basically. And so we can come in and create node names of our own choosing, fill them with data, we can create attributes of our own choosing. And so then we have all of our data stored in this type of format. Now, this is still popularly used for APIs and stuff like that, though there's a lot of older APIs that return information via XML. It's not as popular these days because it requires sending a lot more information. You know, to return this information is a lot larger data transfer than if we were to send the same info via JSON or something like that. So it's not as popular, but it's still out there. It's a little more difficult to work with in JSON because it doesn't translate directly into something that we're accustomed to, but PHP does have some great tools for bringing it in, processing it, and that sort of thing. So let's take a look at what some of those tools can do and how we can use the information in XML in our PHP scripts. So I'm going to assign the information to a variable, and I'm going to use simple XML load file. Of course, this is a built-in function in PHP, and since test.xml is in the same folder, all I gotta do is pass in the name, and at that point all of this information is now loaded into this string, but it's not just loaded in as a string, it's loaded in as a simple XML object. And we can see that, I'm just gonna add in our pre-tags here. And let's use var dump and actually take a look at what is in there right now. So now you can see we have a simple XML object, and look, and it's very similar to an array. In fact, it's made up of smaller arrays, and all the information is in here accessible via different tools. So we just have a giant object of all that information. And we can access that a number of different ways. If I want to get all the child nodes, which in this case would be, you know, say vegetable, we want to get those, I can access them by saying XM children, and that's going to get me all of the children of the current node, which we've not narrowed anything down, so we're still working off of this main vegetables node. So that's going to return all the children node, all the child nodes. I can access them directly if I wanted to. I can say XML vegetable, I want the second one. Let's comment out a few of these. Print R will also return objects, so we can use that as well. So now I've told it to return the second one. Of course, we're counting from 0. And so it's returning this information. So I've selected the second node. I can access the attribute itself by coming in and saying ID. And now I've returned just that. And that is the shorthand for recovering it this way. I can say attributes ID. This will return the same thing. Attributes, of course, being a built-in method of the simple XML object. And I can loop through these things. So we had XML children up here. and I can loop through those. Print our vegetables, so we have some sort of output. And we can see that as it loops through, it's returning each one of these individually, and we could access them that way. So if I was to say echo, let's put a line break in there, vegetable ID, then we'd see down here, each it's starting to echo out the ID. So we can access all the information just by selecting it, basically. Now let's say that I wanted to, I'm looping through all of the children, but I don't actually know perhaps what the name of the node is. I don't know that it's vegetable. I'm just saying whatever is there, loop through it. So in that case, I can actually echo out the name by saying vegetable get name. And of course, for each one of those, it's going to return vegetable. And so if I'm looping through and I don't exactly know what to expect or what a node may be, then I might be interested to get it. I could also, if I specifically knew what I wanted to loop through, I could call it like this. And so if I was to come back in and say print R, that would still work as well, just like it was originally. So I can select and say, okay, I want everything a vegetable, which means if I came in here and said fruit name for instance, then it's still not going to be returned because I said I only want those with the node name of vegetable. Now another thing that I can do is I can just comment this out here. Is I can loop through and I can do searches. And searches are done via what's called XPath. So I can come in and if I want to assign to result equals XML XPath. And with XPath, we give it a string of what we want to find. So if I wanted to select all the vegetable nodes, I can do that. And this is going to find vegetable nodes regardless of where they are in the XML. Doesn't matter what level they are, it's just going to find those. If I wanted to find them relative to the current path, then I could say, I could put 1 in and it's going to find it relative to the root. If I wanted to find it based on an attribute, then I could come in and say, since we've got the ID attribute, I could come in and say that I want to find all vegetables, all the vegetable node that have an ID of 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I print out the result here, and it seems I've got a typo. Alright, so now I've found just the specific node that I'm looking for. I could also come in and say that I want to search a lower node. So this is using the hierarchy, so it's saying vegetable /name, so it's looking for a name inside a vegetable node. Now it's not going to have an ID because we don't have any IDs assigned to them, but I could say I want one that has text that matches a certain thing. And I can do that with text equals, and let's say that we want to search for radish. Save and go back here. And it found a node that has it. Now that's not terribly useful to us because all it's returning is that name node. That's what we asked, is just to return the name node. But we might want to have return the parent node, a vegetable, that contains a name with the value of radish. And we can do that by putting / and 2 periods. And that's basically telling it to back up the DOM and return the parent, basically. So that allows us to search a number of different ways throughout our XML to find the things, find the nodes that we're looking for. These things can be mixed and matched. For instance, we could come in and say vegetables, so we can actually start searching, use our XPath on a lower node, and that still works fine as well. So there's a lot of flexibility, but would just allow us to search and iterate through, to loop through nodes as we want to, using either the specific node name or the children's method, and be able to work through and do anything we want to with it.